Either now or later.
Okay, are we on camera? Okay, so this is Nana and Grandpa interview 2012, May 2012, and a couple of questions. So you guys just shoot from the hip here. So we'll start with Mom. Where did you grow up? Just tell us about your family, parents, and then what you can about your grandparents.
I was born in Stockholm, Sweden, and my father was, his name was Frans Carl Gösta Eklund. It was called Gösta. He was named after his mother, who was named Augusta. And his father was Carl. And my grandfather was dead before I was born. I also had an aunt who was named Eva, so I was named after her. And she was dead before I was born also. My mother died when I was 3 years old, and my sister was 7 months old. She had TB. And my father remarried when I was 5 years old, and I was the flower girl at my parents' wedding. And my mother and dad, my stepmother and dad, that is, married together with her sister and her husband-to-be. And my cousin was also the other flower girl. So that was pretty eventful for me at 5 years old. And
where did you grow up? Where were you?
I grew up in Stockholm. Outside Stockholm, my father was office manager at the Royal Academy of Science, and we lived at the academy, and we had all the people who were working at the academy, the key people, lived there.
Okay. And you have brothers?
My brothers, my
sister?
Sister's 3 years old, younger than me. My brothers were born in 46. 47 and 48, I think. I can't even remember right now. So I have 3 brothers and sister, and they're all still alive in Sweden. I have 11 nephews and nieces, and a bunch of great nephews and nieces in Sweden. I went to school in Stockholm. It's called Norrmalms kommunala flickskola, which was an all-girls school, which I loved. And I got a really good education there, which I'm thankful for. I came over here at 19, so that was my life up until that time. I was active in youth group. I played the piano. I started playing piano at 9, and still play.
What years did Momo and Morfa pass away? Do you remember?
I don't remember the years exactly, no.
Okay.
My dad was 67, and she was 85, I think it was.
Okay. She had a heart condition, right?
She had cancer.
Cancer,
yeah.
Okay.
But she died of old age, really.
Yeah.
My dad had been in an auto accident in his early 60s. Was knocked over on his bike by an army jeep in Sweden. I had serious brain injuries. They drilled 6 holes, I think, on top of his skull to get rid of the fluid. And he survived, but it affected him. He was very athletic, loved to exercise. He played sports all the time. He exercised morning and night. He rode a bike, he played tennis, he skied, everything he could possibly do. And he didn't get a car until he was 50 years old because he thought they were unnecessary. When you have 2 feet to walk on, and buses and trains, you don't need a car. So finally my mom gave him the money to buy a car on his 50th birthday.
And he was funny.
Was a big deal. I'm sorry?
He was funny.
He was very funny.
He did all kinds of antics.
He did. He was apt to greet, when I had friends coming over, he was apt to greet them at the door dressed like an Indian. And he liked little jokes all the time. He had joke things in his hands.
Remember when he was in the hospital before he died, he had the bug eyes with the springs, right, for the nurses.
He loved that kind of stuff. There's a joke store in Stockholm called Buttrick's. That was his favorite place to go shopping at. And so when we were kids, we often went there. And you retained that from him too, I think. And my brothers The oldest one is an architect, and he's just sold his business, I think about a year ago. His wife is a physician. Lasse, my second brother, is a social worker, and his wife is a nurse. My third brother is a painter, both of pictures, but also of houses and everything else. All of them have gone to college. My sister was a teacher before she retired, and had special ed and Swedish as a second language, actually, for foreign students who came to Sweden.
Okay.
And my stepmother was a nurse. My mother, I found out many years after she had died, had been a lingerie buyer at the department store in Stockholm.
Your biological
My
mother.
biological mother. And this funny thing I found out, I did that too later in Slidell when we lived down there.
Huh.
So I became a buyer as well, which was kind of fun. I went to art school too when I was going to high school for the last couple of years.
You did okay in that department. Okay, Dad.
Thank you.
Early years.
Say what?
Where'd you
Early
grow
years?
up?
The early years.
Where were
when
you
I
born?
grew up- Yeah, I was born in Woburn, Massachusetts. And my dad is from Ireland, and my mother was from Scotland. And they both passed away now, of course. And anyway, when I grew up, I went to Woburn. I went to grammar school, which is kind of interesting. I went to the Charles Goodyear School. And the reason it was called that is because Charles Goodyear, who invented vulcanized rubber, that happened right across the street from the school, in the house, and that's why they call it the Goodyear School. And then I went to Woburn High School for 6 years in high school, junior high, and then senior high. And then I went to, after that, I went to Newman Prep for a year for physics. And then I went to Wentworth Institute for electrical circuits and controls after that. So that's the extent of my education.
You stuck with that for a while. Electrical
Yeah,
circuits.
I've been in that now for 51 years. Can you believe that? So anyway. Yeah.
And what do you remember about your grandparents?
I don't remember my grandparents at all because I don't believe if I met them, they were. If I only met one of them, they were I was very, very young, just a baby at that time. But I don't believe my grandparents were ever in
I don't
this
think
country.
so.
I don't believe
Really?
they ever came to
No.
this country.
Okay.
And so I don't believe I've ever met my grandparents.
And your mom and dad's names, what are their full names?
Yeah, my dad's name is Samuel Cassidy, and Samuel James Cassidy, I believe. And my mother's name was Rachel Johnstone.
Elizabeth, right? Rachel Elizabeth?
No, Rachel Johnston.
Rachel
No,
Johnston.
Lockhart.
Lockhart.
Lockhart
Okay.
Johnson,
Lockhart.
that's correct. And she was from Glasgow, Scotland.
And I read that there was an outbreak on the ship that they came over on, and so they had to stay at Ellis Island for a few days.
Well,
quarantined.
they came over to Ellis Island. They were immigrants into Ellis Island. My dad was already here when my mom came. Okay. But my mom and my Aunt Martha came at the same time, and my Aunt Martha was detained in Ellis Island because she had glaucoma.
Mhm.
And glaucoma in those days was something that they didn't know how to treat it, so it was considered a disease. And she was retained for several days, I believe, at Ellis Island, and there was a possibility she would have been shipped back, but the glaucoma got better, and she stayed here. So my mom had three sisters here, okay? Aunt Martha, Aunt Sarah, and Aunt Elsie. Aunt Elsie was my...
Aunt Sarah.
Aunt Sarah, excuse me, right. And my dad had, two sisters there. And my dad had three brothers. Got a little interesting story. His name was Samuel, and his three brothers were William, Andrew, and
John?
No.
I don't know.
Samuel, William, Andrew, and I forget the other one. In any case, they all had children and boys. They all named them the same names. Samuel, William, and Robert.
Robert, okay.
And my uncle Robert had three sons. He named them Samuel, Robert, and William. Okay. My dad named me Samuel. Uncle Andrew, he named his Samuel, Andrew, and Robert.
And he was Samuel James also.
And he was Samuel James also. So when our firstborn, Alan, was born, Mom said, No more Samuels.
Not I said. No, Nana did.
Nana did.
Nana
Okay.
did that.
No more Samuels.
No
That's
more
funny.
Samuels.
in the family.
So it's Alan James.
Yeah, Alan James was his name. So anyway, that's
What did your dad and you? But what did your dad do on the farm? They grew flowers for Quincy Market, right?
Well, yeah, but that wasn't his main business. His main business was farmers' containers, boxes, barrels, crates, anything to do. In those days, we didn't have supermarkets like we have now. There were no Walmarts around. There were no, Safeways and so forth. It was all individual shop owners, the meat store and the produce store and so forth. And there was a lot of them in Massachusetts where we lived. And all of the farms out in Woburn where we lived would grow the vegetables. Of course, there were other farms all over also. The farmers would take their produce to market, into the Boston market, and then the stores would buy from the market. So the farmers needed the containers to put them in, boxes and barrels and so forth. They would bring them to market. We would go to market, pick up the barrels and the boxes, or to the stores, bring them back, and it was just a recycling thing back and forth.
The barrel that's out in your shed, that was built at your dad's?
That was built by my dad. My dad had a barrel maker work for him, an old gentleman, and they were called Coopers. Okay, that made barrels, and they would do the staves and
the rings.
It was quite an art to do it and to seal it, Anyway.
So that barrel out back though was made. Your dad used that barrel.
That's correct.
No kidding.
That's correct.
So that belongs to me one day.
That belongs.
I'm
to
claiming
me.
it.
Okay.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and you can have the golf clubs that are in it right now.
And so you have three sisters.
I had three sisters. My sister Betty, who passed away several years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago. My sister Muriel, who passed away just a few weeks ago. And my sister Caroline, who lives in Denver, Colorado. And there's 11 years difference between me and my younger sister, between Caroline, very much like Aaron to Hope and Jenna. It's kind of the same thing. So, only I had three sisters and Aaron has two.
Right, and they said you were the darling of the family. So.
Well, I was
spoiled.
He was spoiled.
Listen, I did my work, run up and downstairs,
getting
my sister's things. So.
Now you worked for your dad for quite a few years, right?
I did a long time. I can remember working with him ever since I don't know, 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
On the truck with him.
And you lived at what was the address of the home in Woburn?
Well, we born in Montvale Road, and we moved to Salem Street.
191.
191 Salem.
Yeah.
And I had, when I grew up, I had a lot of horses. I worked hard, worked all the time with them, but I had, I think, 9 horses from the time I was about 12 years old till 17, somewhere there.
Okay, so just for the sake of time on the camera, how did the two of you meet?
Do you want me to tell you?
Well, Mom, how did you end up in America, Mom?
Mom doesn't agree with me on this, but I'll tell you my version of what happened. I used to work at a church, do a broadcast, radio broadcast, at a church called Tremont Temple in Boston, a big, large church, and there were balconies in the church.
Well, you did it with Roger.
Yeah, I did it with Roger. Roger was the one that did it,
Right.
and then he went to work for another station, and he asked me if...
That was Betty's husband, your sister's husband.
Correct, and he trained me to do it, and so I would go in and set up the mics and so forth, and I would sit up in the corner of this church where I could see the whole... I could see the podium, I could see the balconies, I could see everywhere. And one day I'm sitting there, and this gorgeous thing came walking down the balcony opposite me. I said, whoa. So who is this? So anyway, I met Mom. Okay, now Mom thinks that I met her before that.
What do you mean I think?
Well, you go, okay? And what happened was I was going with another girl, okay? And her name was Margaret. And Margaret had borrowed something from Eva.
No, the other way around.
What, you had borrowed from her?
I borrowed a gown to go to a banquet.
So anyway, when I was going out with Margaret at the church one night, when I got all the radio stuff put away, we were going out somewhere, Margaret came and gave this...
No, I gave the gown back to
Margaret.
her.
Okay.
Or Meg. We
Whatever.
called her Meg.
Yeah, I called her Meg. Yeah. I called her M&M.
In other words, I didn't make an impression at all.
Okay.
That's the
Yeah,
first
and I
time
don't
we met.
understand that at all. You know? And anyway, Margaret's name was Margaret May Mercer, and we called her M&M's.
Okay.
Anyway, but that's how I met Mom. And then we went out. We went out to Howard Johnson one night after church.
After church, and I had tea and English muffin.
Yeah.
I don't remember what you had.
And then
We had the first date. We went where?
we went to the Colonial Club in.
Which was very, very snazzy.
Yeah, a really snazzy restaurant. Mom had shrimp. I couldn't believe it. She was eating shrimp because I had never had shrimp in my life. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, unfortunately. And anyway, after that, we went to a movie in Winchester, Mass. The Swiss Family Robinson.
That's right.
You know, really, really bad movie. You know.
No, it wasn't bad.
Oh, my kids still like that movie.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie. Anyway, we were engaged shortly after that and married shortly after that.
What do you remember about that first date, Mom?
Well, I'll tell you, it was kind of strange. That first date, I was working at a hospital, the Malden Hospital, which is north of Boston, and I had a different date every night that week. It just so happened. That was my Friday night date, and then I had another date, actually with a doctor on Saturday night. So I came home after having a date. I was staying at the nurses' home because I had planned to go to the nurses' training at nurses' school there at that hospital. And I came home from that date with Grandpa, and I came home and I said, I've just been out with a guy I'm going to marry.
You said that to who? To Auntie Rini?
No, to the girls at the nursing home.
Oh.
Well, I mean the nurses' home, I should say.
After that first date?
That first date.
That's because I had a '59 turquoise green convertible, a turquoise convertible with a white interior and a pearl steering.
What kind of car was it?
'59 Ford Fairlane.
You should have kept that, Dad.
It was gorgeous.
You should have kept that car.
Today.
But anyway, I
That's
came
what
home
she
and that's
fell
what
in
I
love
said.
with.
So the next day I called it the date I was supposed to have for Saturday, and I never went out with anybody else again.
Really?
And we dated, we went out every single night. Every single day, I should say, after that.
Were those church functions, or were you just going out doing whatever?
Sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah,
And
what we
sometimes
did
Dad,
after that,
when I worked till 11 o'clock, he came and picked me up,
drove
took me
around.
home, and then came and picked me up at 6 o'clock in the morning again to take me back to work.
Well,
Sometimes.
Let me tell you, when I first saw Mom, I knew I was going to date her. I wanted to date her. She lived in a very remote area of Melrose.
It was Greenwood.
Yeah, Greenwood. And I went out that night. My friend and I went out. We actually checked out where she lived. So when my first date with her, I drove her right to the door, and she was.
Nobody else had done that.
She had never done that before, but I knew that route. Yeah, so there's different ways to impress people. That's one of them.
I should explain, I was dating in Sweden, but in Sweden you couldn't date more than one person at the time. That would have been unseemly. So when I came to America, you could date whoever you wanted. That was like a free-for-all.
And Mom, how were your family's reaction briefly to your staying in America and marrying
My
an
dad was
American?
not happy because the age of majority was 21 and I was 19. So I kept telling him I didn't have enough money to come back home. And so finally, when I was 21, I just stayed. And I never ever looked, I was never homesick, I never looked back as far as going back there to stay. Once I came here, that was it for me. I had so much fun. Americans were fun. Swedes tended to be gloomy and down. And I just loved it. And from the very beginning, the very first time when I came to New York, I saw a policeman, and he was chewing gum. That would have been unthinkable in Sweden, that the policeman would actually chew gum.
While he was
In
on
Sweden,
the job?
In America, you can do anything, it seemed like. And the Americans laughed, they had fun, and they were joyful. And that appealed to
That's
me a
fun.
lot after coming from Sweden.
So before Andover, you first lived where? After you married?
We lived in Winchester, Mass. We had an apartment. Well, first we lived in Woburn.
In a little tiny house.
A little tiny house.
For 3 months.
For 3 months, then we moved to an apartment in Winchester, Mass, which is right next to Woburn.
Paid $57
Yeah.
a month for
A month.
Yeah, that was.
for rent.
So where were you working?
No, I'm sorry. We paid $85. Dad made $57 a week.
$57 a week when we got married.
And the apartment cost
For where?
$85.
Where were you working?
I was working for an oil burner company down
Okay.
in outskirts of Boston.
So you were already doing control work that you've
Okay.
done all these years
I was
now.
doing more burner service and yeah, it involved controls, but not to the extent that I get
Okay.
into it.
And Alan and I were both born in Winchester while you were at that place,
Yes.
right?
That's correct.
And then, so how old were we when you moved to Andover and built that house?
You're about 3 and 4.
Yeah.
3 and
Okay.
4. You were
Did
little.
you contract that house or did you build it with
That
friends?
house was built by my cousin's husband, who was a builder in Andover, Mass.
His name was Bob Rabenius.
Bob Rabenius, and he built some beautiful homes, and he built that one for us
Yeah.
at a very reasonable.
We designed
price.
it, and we did a lot of stuff
We did a
ourselves.
lot. When we
painted-
bought that house, to give an example, we paid, that was 16,000.
19,000.
19,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, 19,000 for the house. Then we finished upstairs. It was Cape Cod,
Mhm.
oversized Cape. And the last I heard, that house was, what was it?
350,000.
300, huh?
350,000.
It was, yeah, 350,000.
But that is 20 years ago.
Yeah,
So you paid 19,000 including the property,
yeah.
Yeah,
and now the house is probably worth 3, 4, 500,000 now.
it was more
Well,
than that.
years ago, a few years back, it was 350,000. I wouldn't doubt that that house is probably 400 or 500,000.
At least.
Was that sitting
And then-
on a half acre? Do you remember?
It was on a, I was almost on a,
It was almost a full acre
almost
because
a
it went
full
into the
acre,
wood.
I remember, yeah.
And who are some of the neighbors you remember that lived on that
The
street?
Gutermans.
Gutermans.
Yeah, that's your friends.
And then
The
next door,
Krulls?
the Krulls. Who else?
Yep, and,
The Moody's.
yeah, the
Epsteins.
Moody's, the Snellgroves.
The Epstein.
Yeah, the Epstein. Those are the people
They
you
give
used
us-
to get in trouble with, Paul. You know, when you get into the beehive and spill the bees and everything. Set
Yeah.
the woods on fire up there or wherever it was.
So you'd spend most of your time with the Gutermans, though, probably, right? As far as
No, we had a neighborhood group, and we did things together all the time. We had barbecues. Went out to the dinner at least once a week, the whole gang of us, and we went to shows. We had lots and lots of fun, and all your kids loved each other.
Mhm.
And
I remember.
but somehow it ended up in our yard. Everybody was there. For the kids.
well, and Dad
So
built
like
a
it is
skating
today.
rink, I think, for us
no,
out.
that was Mr. Snellgrove.
Oh, the Snellgroves. Okay.
Yeah.
Bruce was their son, right? Bruce and
Yes.
Bruce Snellgrove,
Greg.
yeah.
That's right. So okay, I thought Dad had done that. Dad
No.
built the sandbox for us out back and the swing set.
And Mr. Snellgrove built the skating rink, but then he didn't take up the plastic in the spring. He burned up his whole lawn. He left the plastic on. Came back from golf and picked up the dig. All he had was
Mine
an
did.
acre of it.
Well, I remember, Dad, you
Acre
built a
of it.
really
Correct.
sturdy swing set for us with
Yeah.
pipe and fittings and
Yeah.
cement, and that thing wasn't going anywhere.
That's right.
You painted it green, I think.
Yes.
4-inch pipe.
You're
And I
absolutely
remember we
right.
spent a lot of time on that swing set. We
Yeah.
lived right on the edge of the woods, right? And
Yeah.
you built a tree house out back with Alan and I.
Right.
Yep.
And the Fisters, I think, came over periodically to hang out.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Court.
And across the street there were no houses because that was an aviary,
Hmm.
and so nothing could be built there, which was really nice. We
So-
had privacy.
When you were married at Church of the Open Bible?
Yes.
Who married you?
Pastor Carlton Helgerson. He was a Swede. And it's funny because it was a Swedish church, and Nana went there. She started going there, and the services were in Swedish when she started going there. And she didn't know a word of Swedish. It's kind of funny.
Oh, the services were in
They were in
Swedish.
Swedish when they started. Yeah.
Okay, but then later on they were in
Yes.
English.
Uh-huh.
Now, was that a Swedish Covenant church then, or Lutheran?
No.
It was a
No, it was
non-denomination.
Yeah.
It was, okay.
church,
Yes.
yeah.
It was pretty strict, though, wasn't it?
Very.
Sure. That's
He
for
was
sure.
he was really legalistic.
He was.
Yes,
Oh,
very.
yeah.
So you took the Sabbath off and you didn't do any work and.
Most of my friends that went to the church, kids that grew up, we took the Sabbath off. I mean, we would skip church more than I can.
Oh, really? Because
They
you
were
just
never
didn't
with-
get anything out of it.
Oh yeah, we got the bowling alley, whatever. I mean, it was just church from morning till night. You know, Sunday school in the morning, morning service, in the afternoon the young people's group, and then the evening service, and then, you know, on and on and on. Well,
And so you were married what year? 1961.
61
And where did you honeymoon?
in Maine, on a
Naples.
little lake in a town called Naples.
Is that still there where you honeymooned?
It is.
Yeah,
Was it a cabin or a
Yeah, it was
hotel?
a cabin.
Cabin.
Cute cabin.
cabin on the lake, pretty nice.
Yeah. Poured rain. Absolutely poured.
For what, a
Most-
week? Or were you there a
Most
week?
of the time we were there. We had fun anyway.
Yeah.
Except the day we went on the plane. The first day of our honeymoon.
First day I've ever on an airplane was the next day after I got married. In a little Piper Cub we went around.
Oh, gee. Was it a prop plane? Little prop plane?
Yeah.
A
Oh, yeah.
little Piper. And the first time I was ever on an airplane. So,
And so is that one of the reasons you've enjoyed spending time in Maine all these
Yes.
years? Because
That's
that's
fun. Well, it also
fun.
reminds me of Sweden,
Yeah.
because I very much like Sweden.
I mean, I was born and brought up in the area. Maine,
Yeah.
New Hampshire, Massachusetts, up in the New England area where Mom was not, but it is very much
It is.
like Sweden.
A lot of granite.
yeah.
It reminds me of that. I should tell you when how I came over. It took 26 hours to come from Sweden. I flew from Stockholm to Gothenburg, from Gothenburg to Bergen, Norway, from Bergen, Norway to Reykjavik, Iceland, from Iceland to Goose Bay, Canada, and then to New York.
Because it was a smaller prop plane, right? Needed more
well,
refueling?
yeah, it was a problem. And it hangs in the Smithsonian today.
No kidding. Do you remember what airline? What airline was that?
Icelandic.
Icelandic.
SAS to Gothenburg and then Icelandic.
And you came over on a student visa, right?
No.
Oh, no.
I came over, just on a visit visa.
Oh, I thought you were here for school.
No. I was going to start nurses training in Sweden. That was my plan. In Sweden that time you had to have worked in a family with at least 3 children under 10 for a year before you could even be accepted to a nurses training school.
So how long was your visitor's card good for?
It was for a year, but I extended it after just being here for 7 months.
And you were staying with Uncle
My
Victor?
Aunt and Uncle Victor, Aunt Cecilia. Uncle Victor was my birth mother's brother.
Brother.
And he was the oldest one in his family.
And you are best friends with their daughter, Rini.
Rini became like my oldest sister. I didn't have one. I was the oldest in our family. But we had so much fun. She took me to car hops and things that we didn't have in Sweden, and the car music, and I had various sneakers. We didn't have sneakers in Sweden those days.
It was the good old days, wasn't it? Down
The
in
good old
Fairfax?
days,
Yeah.
that's right.
Cabrera
Do you miss
Well,
Massachusetts, or have you enjoyed Maryland just as much?
Oh, I think I've enjoyed Maryland.
Yeah, I
like it
have
here.
too.
I like it here. We like Massachusetts also,
Yeah.
except the winter's a little more moderate here than they are up north.
Definitely easier than New Orleans.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And Mom, when did they discover that you had cancer?
That was in January 1990. And that's 22 years ago. And I was stage 4 of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And so what do you attribute surviving stage 4 cancer for all these years?
God's
Yeah.
blessing. It's tremendous. I've had cancer several times since then, including kidney cancer, which was a different cancer. I had a kidney removed. And lots and lots of people praying for me. Ryan started praying for me when he was 8 years old. He prayed for me every day.
Jeff's son.
Jeff's son.
Yeah.
And many, many other people. A dear lady, a friend, died just a few months ago, and she had prayed for me every single day, ever since she met me.
Mm.
And I met people at Faith Community Church yesterday who are still praying for me. I'm blessed.
Your son prays for you a lot too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, God has blessed me. It's been wonderful. If I had stayed in Sweden, I doubt whether I had become a true Christian. Because, as far as I know, the only one who are truly Christian in Sweden are Lasse and Tina. My brother Lasse and Tina. Yeah.
And is it accurate that Nana had a big impact on you spiritually, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had things in common. We both came over, immigrated here when we were 19. We both got married at 22. We were both foreigners and had to get used to a new country. So from the beginning, we had something in common. She was my ideal. I loved her dearly, and my father-in-law. I'll tell you something funny. When Dad and I were dating, on our 3rd date, Grandpa walked out to the car with us, and he winked and opened the door for me and winked and said, "Take good care of my future daughter-in-law." That was on our 3rd date.
Grandpa loved you.
I think everyone
He
did.
loved you.
Yeah, I loved him. It was mutual. We had fun together. He taught me how to drive because I didn't have a license.
No,
Sweden.
Grandpa passed away when I was 5, I believe.
Yeah. Now I'm 6.
And he had a stomach ulcer, is what I understand.
He
from
did. He
Caroline.
had
He
several
died of
things
a
wrong.
stomach ulcer. Yeah,
He also
that
had
was-
Alzheimer's.
I didn't realize that until Auntie Merrill passed away. That she,
Right.
excuse me, that I was diagnosed with a stomach ulcer, and Caroline told me that that's how my father passed away. I mean, he had other problems
Right.
also, but that's what.
He did.
But back then they would have called what he suffered mentally dementia, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now you've got another grandson to enjoy.
I do.
Yeah.
Hey, Aaron, come over here.
Hello.
Can you sit up there with Grandpa really quick?
Yeah, come here, bud. Yeah,
Okay,
we
just
gotta get
sit
on
there
a
and-
movie.
Thank you.
We gotta go on a movie. For
Look,
a minute.
look at Hope. She's videotaping you. Can you show her your bear?
Show you there.
Hey, Aaron, where's Grandpa?
Right.
And where's Nana? Where's Nana? Where's Nana?
Where's Nana?
And where's Aaron?
Right
Right
Jeff.
there.
And who's this?
Is that bear?
This little guy, all our grandchildren are real blessings. But to
He
be
was
able
a
to
little
sit here and do
surprised.
this is really special. Huh?
It is.
Yeah.
The last time we saw him, he was only 7 months old.
I know.
But you've grown up since then.
You're a big boy, aren't you? Yeah.
You're going to be a lady killer when you grow up, I think. I think
Can you
so.
do hey baby? Can you do hey baby?
Hey, baby. No, not today.
Say, oh man.
No way, dude. Can you give me a T-bow?
Well, I get a T-bone.
All right.
Give a T-bone.
Okay, well, I think I've covered what I wanted to cover. Thanks for spending some time doing that.
Okay.
And then maybe I'll try and get more info from you later. I'd like to do a family history.
Can we do a reshoot?
We're not going to do a reshoot. No, we're going to have to make this one work. So, anything else? Anything else I missed there? Big stuff?
Probably.
Yeah.
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 It's hard to.
Do you miss Sweden, Mom, at all?
I don't miss Sweden.
No.
I miss my family,
Yeah.
but no, I've never missed Sweden.
Okay.
I've always enjoyed being
Enjoyed
here.
America. Because we're fun.
You're fun. It's
Okay.
a fun country.
Okay, so Mom, say something. You got to say something in Swedish on the camera.
Vad vill du jag ska säga?
What is that?
What do you want me to say?
Explain why you never taught your 2 sons fluent Swedish. Say it in Swedish, though.
Jag försökte lära mina 2 pojkar att tala svenska. Jag lyckades. Jag försökte lära mig engelska på samma gång. I tried to teach my 2 boys Swedish, but I was trying to learn English at the same time myself. So that was kind of hard. But
You're still pretty
Do
good
on
on your.
purpose.
You're still pretty sharp on your Swedish. That's
Who
good.
would
It's
know?
it's a beautiful language. So, is that what? Just pause it. Just stop.